Hey, this is Mike, and we're now on lesson 2.4, collision decisions. So this one is we're going to put in colliders. Right now we're still pressing S to spawn the animals, so it's going to be changed to a timer so that they appear every few seconds automatically. So we'll be removing the S to spawn, and we'll be adding colliders to make them so that it will detect whenever they hit a collider hits into each other. So basically the pizza projectile will detect when it hits into an animal and then be able to destroy them. And there'll be a game over message, and right now their game over message is just a console message, but I think we'll take it one step further and put it in as a UI element. So let's get started. So the first step is we want to make, we're still pressing S to make it work. So make a new method to spawn animals. So what they're doing here is, so here's their key code S. They just took and copied and pasted this code that spawns animals into a new function basically, but like we have it in here. Right here, spawn manager. So we have it under this trigger, and it's just the instantiate here. So what they're doing is taking it out and putting it in. The equivalent of this in Game Creator would be to make an action, actions, and then do run actions, basically. So that's what they're doing here. So spawn the animals at timed intervals. So we're still pressing S. Okay, so they're going to use invoke repeating, but we don't need to do it this way in Game Creator. There is no invoke repeating in Game Creator. So they're going to use a delay of 2 seconds and a spawn interval of 1.5 seconds. So let's do, and so this would be on start. So we're going to create an action. So we will create an actions. And we're going to copy our instantiate into here. And we're going to change the variable to the spawn manager. And because it's using this local list variable that we have in here, which this is a whole list of the 3 possibilities of spawning animals. And so it's going to pick a random, the same as before. We do have to fix this game object stuff again, so it knows where the variables are that we're using, the X and the position Z. And the last one is it'll take the rotation. It's going to pick a random one, but it doesn't really matter which one it picks because they all have the same rotation. So we could easily change this to a hard-coded value as well if you wanted to just put 180 as the rotation or whatever. But we're just going to continue to pick a random one. It'll just take the actual rotation from one of the 3 possibilities, which all have the same rotation value anyway. So that's that. So we have that set up. So we're going to remove it from here. We're going to change this trigger, so we can change the trigger to on start. So life cycle on start. So let's look at what they're doing. So they are just doing invoke repeating. There's a start delay of 2 seconds and then a spawn interval of 1.5. So we can add those as variables. So we could change them using the variable. So start delay 2 and spawn interval. So every 1.5 seconds, it will spawn a new animal. So after 2 seconds. So we want to wait 2 seconds first. So that would be a wait. We can do a wait seconds. Wait 2 seconds, or actually we want to use the variable that we just set up. So we're going to use the start delay. Right, so it'll wait. And then we want to run the action. Run actions. And we just drag in that actions and wait to finish. We don't need to wait to finish. And it'll just run this. And then so the actions instantiates it, and then there's a spawn interval of 1.5. So after we instantiate it, we want to wait 1.5 seconds, or the spawn interval variable that we just set up. Spawn interval. So it'll wait that many seconds. And then we just want to do restart instructions. So this will loop back up to the beginning. So then it'll just keep running forever, actually. It'll just keep going. So that's the equivalent of the invoke repeating, because if you look for that in here, you're not going to see it. There's an invoke method, but there's no like invoke repeating. There's the wait, basically, in terms of time. Let's take a look and see if that does what we think it's going to do. And yeah, some of them are spawning outside the range that the player can go to. So you might want to change the range. You'll have to change the range of the animals to the same as the player's range. But yeah, it's working. So the X range should be the same as the player, the range on the player. So X range 10. It should be 10 and not 20. So if we change this to 10, then we shouldn't get any animals outside the range of the player. So it seems to be better. Yeah, so that's better. Yeah. So add collider and trigger components is next. So nothing happens when they collide. So let's do that. So we want to add a collider to each of the animal prefabs and make them a trigger. Okay. And the projectile as well. Okay. So let's do that. So we have the fox, and we want a collider on this, a box collider, because these have no colliders. Okay. Actually, maybe we can put it on that, actually. If you put it, if you put it on the parent, it doesn't really know how big it should be. Let's see if putting it on the mesh does any better. And it does. It puts a smaller collider if you do it on the mesh. So that I think is better. And we want to make that a trigger. And we can exit out. That will save it. And we'll do the same thing with the other two. And we'll do a box collider on there. And the rooster. And the reason they have all these grayed out ones is they're using this one prefab for all different possibilities. So this rig, this is the rig. This is the mesh. So they had one FBX model that has multiple models inside, meshes inside of it, so that they only need one for like all different ones, different colors and stuff, ducks and stuff it looks like in there. So, but we just need to put it on the active one and make it a trigger. So we got that. And the pizza, we will do it right here because this is where the mesh is on the parent, and put a box collider on there. That should do it. And that one is a trigger. And we also want to add a rigid body to this, so that physics, it needs it in order to detect collisions. You need to have one of the two objects colliding with each other has to have a rigid body on it. But we don't want to use gravity, because if we did, the pizza would hit the ground and it wouldn't keep going. We don't want gravity to affect it. So that's why they're saying to use gravity. So, and you need a rigid body in order for the collisions to work. So now, destroy objects on collision. Now that they have colliders, we need to detect those collisions. So there's a new detect collisions and add it to each animal prefab. So we're going to create and let me save that. We're just going to create a new trigger, I think. Detect collisions. We'll make it, detect collisions. And so we're going to make it into a prefab. And we want the on trigger enter function. So that would be this event under physics, on trigger enter. Executed when a game object enters the trigger collider. On trigger entered requires a collider in order to work. Okay. So yes, it needs to be on the same object as the collider is. Destroy the game object, destroy other .game object. So I think we can just ignore this for now. And any collider entering it. So what we want to do is destroy. Right, it'll destroy itself. So this is the animal will destroy itself, and then we want to destroy the other game object. The last trigger, or reference to the last object that collided with a trigger. Last object that entered a trigger collider with is trigger. I think it's this one. The last collided, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. And then we'll make this into a prefab. And then we can put it on each of the animals and see if that works. And also we need the pizza to have one. Okay. And then, okay. Add it to each animal prefab. Okay, so this, yeah, so it's gonna, to the other game object will be the pizza. So it's gonna, each animal will destroy itself and whatever hits it. So the pizza. So they're adding this script, and it's going to be attached to each prefab. So in the script, it has two instructions. So what we're going to do to make this work is to make this an action instead. So what we want to do in each of the prefabs is do a trigger. Physics on trigger enter. collider NE. We want to run an action. Run actions. And we will have an actions in the detect collisions. Now we're going to create an actions. And then we're going to move those or add those instructions to the actions. Destroy the parent. Yeah. Of self. There we go. And then destroy, because each of these things is on the child. So the parent would be the actual parent game object. We want to delete that, not just the child mesh part of it. And then we want to destroy last collided game object. No, we want to destroy last collided enter, I think. Let's see. Physics. Reference to the last object that collided with a trigger. So let's see if that works. And we can remove this trigger. So we're going to have this actions. So let's detect collisions. So if we go back into the Fox, see, this is where the actions is being run. So we want to delete its parent, so destroy its parent. So we want to run the actions that's in detect collisions. And we'll do the same thing for the moose and the rooster. So we can add the trigger. On trigger enter. And run actions. And detect collisions. And then the rooster. And we want the same trigger. On trigger enter. And run the actions. Detect collisions. Okay, so that's all three. So it should detect if the pizza hits it. So let's see if this works. Yes, it does work. It does work. We're probably going to have to slow down these animals a little bit for this to be actually winnable. It's not destroying the pizza. Pizza's going right through it. But it is destroying itself. So now because it destroys itself first, so let's try changing the order that it's being destroyed. We don't want it to destroy itself first and then not be able to destroy the pizza. So let's see if that fixes it. No, it does not. Let's see, something's off with that. So maybe it's not this. Last collided, enter. Last trigger, last object that entered a trigger collider. Let's try that one. Let's try if that makes any sense. Yes, that's the one we need. So it's last trigger enter. So it does destroy both of them now. So that works. So last trigger enter instead and not last collided enter. Because we're using, I guess because we're using the on trigger enter. So that can work. And so now that's working. We're probably going to have to tweak the speed of these animals because they are going very fast. That's in the move forward, so we can actually yeah, we would change it inside each of the prefabs to slow them down. So if you go to the move forward in here, that one's already 10, the fox. The moose is really fast though, so we can change it in here to, let's change that to 10. And the fox can change to, let's say, 7. And the rooster is at 5, so I guess that's okay. Right, that's working. So the final step is to trigger a game over message. So if in destroy out of bounds, you want to add a game over message. So that would be in the, not there. Yeah, so check lower bounds. So in our check lower bounds on update, you want to, if they reach the bottom of the screen, add a game over message. So if it gets less than the lower bound, then you want to game over. And we're already checking if it's less than the lower bound, so all we have to do is add this log text game over. But really it doesn't actually end the game, but that's all they do for this particular lesson. So it triggers a game over message. So they're only going that far. They're not restarting the game or anything like that. So if any one of these gets to the bottom, it should say game over. And it's because when you update this, maybe we want to do this too. So no, it worked. We just have to do it before it destroys itself. That's all. So now it should work. You have to do it before you destroy it, because if you destroy it, then it's over. Okay, game over. Game over, game over. Okay, so that's working. So that's all they do. They don't do anything else, but that's the end of that lesson. So if we want to make this a real game over and restart, we can do that as well. So what we want to do is add a canvas, and we can put a game over and a restart button in it. So let's do that. UI. We can just do UI and canvas. That creates a canvas and an event system automatically, so that's good. So let's create a UI image. And yeah, we can do that this way. Image called game over screen. So this will be our game over screen. What we want this to do, size it to the dimensions of the screen. And then we have it set to stretch. I don't know if that actually makes a difference, but And then we can just reduce the alpha to make it semi-transparent so that you can see the game underneath it. So here's and then we can create a game creator UI. Okay, well, we want to do UI Text Mesh Pro and put it underneath the game over screen as a child, and then this will be game over text, and then we can just say game over. And make the font size bigger. And we also want to make this bigger as well, so that, and we want it to be centered both ways horizontally. And we can use the game window as a little preview here. So we want to change the color to something more visible. You can use red or black, I guess, or anything that looks good. We can change the font. So we get a few here with the samples with Text Mesh Pro. So you can use Anton, Bangers, there's an Electric Highway sign, Oswald, and that one doesn't, Unity you can't really use, but Roboto. I will use Bangers. Let's do that. And we can make it bigger, maybe 120. And we can stretch this out to the whole screen as well. So it snaps in so that it will be in the center of the whole screen. And we want to make sure our canvas is set to scale with screen size and use 1920 by 1080 so that when we change the screen size, it will continue to do that. So we have the game over text, and we want a button as well, a restart button. So let's do game creator UI button Text Mesh Pro, and this will be the restart button. We want to put it in there as well, and let's move that down. Can move that underneath the game over. And we want it to be bigger. So we want to change the text to restart. And the font size needs to be bigger. And we can change this as well. And we can stretch this to be the width of the entire game screen, just so that it stays in the center. So that when you do this, it will stay in the center. And then we should be able to make it a lot bigger. So, okay, there's restart. And we want to do the same thing with this button as well. Okay, yeah, you don't want to do that. So we want to resize the button, not the text element. So the text element needs to, because it's a child, so we can just make it so that it snaps in to where the button is, I think. And then let's see, restart button, right? Text. Yeah, the text is way over here, I think. Yeah, so that's good. And we can change the font to that as well. Well, the entire button, right? So, yeah, so we can size the button down a little bit. However you want it, basically. And then sometimes you have to zoom in order for it to work. and it tells you when you're at the middle point here. So there's our restart button. And the good thing about using the Game Creator 2 UI button is it comes with a game creator instructions here. So we can get rid of this log click, and now we can restart the game by just going reload. Okay, scene, reset game, load scene, and we want to reload the scene, so that would be this scene right here, prototype 2. Okay, so we'll reload the scene. When you click the button, and everything will reset. So by default, this game over screen needs to be hidden. And then when the game is over, we'll just unhide that and set the time scale to 0. So, and then what we want is a global variable. Okay. Let's create a folder with a global variable. Create game creator name variables. So you get a global variable. And then let's do a game over variable. Being, I don't know if you can do that. Oops, it's not a reference of Boolean. Okay, so game over false. So it's either true or false. And then let's see. Check lower bounds. Can get rid of these. Set. Can we set bool? Okay. Global name variable. So this. And game over. So then what we want to do, set the global variable game over to true. Okay. So we actually should do it over here as well. Global name variable. Okay, set that to true. And then we can have a game manager that checks for that trigger on update, check conditions, compare Boolean. If it equals true, and that's going to be the variable if it's true, then we want to set active the game over screen and time scale. Set the time scale to 0. So let's see if that works. Oh, maybe we, instead of on update, we want on global name variable change. That could work better. Yeah, when game over changes, the restart button can just, I think this can work. Just the load scene. So let's do that. Game over true. Game over false. There we go. So that worked. Let's just let that one go. It goes a little bit past the screen, but it's setting it to true. And when we reload the scene, everything gets reset. And it should, right? I don't know what it's doing. It's not working. Let's see. So the reason why it wasn't working is we need to go into the build profiles. So file, build profiles, scene list, and make sure that this current scene is in the list of scenes. And we don't really need the sample scene, so we can uncheck it. So prototype 2 needs to be the open scene. So now it should work, and all we have in the game manager is just to check if it's game over equals true anytime the variable changes value. And then if it does, then it'll set the game over screen to true and the time scale to 0. And then when we click the button, it will just reload the scene, the current scene, the prototype 2 scene. And that should reset everything and start a new game. So let's see if it works. So we'll lose intentionally. Okay, game over. And game over is true. So let's see, restart, it should restart. And okay, so maybe you do need to. The game over is still true, so it isn't actually restarting the scene like it's supposed to. Okay. Mode. Let's try that. See if that makes any difference. Okay. Restart. Yes. Okay, so it works. And we can continue to keep restarting the game. That's it, game over. And it's working. So for some reason, the load scene has to be set to scene name. It works with scene name, and you type the scene name. Scene asset, it does not work for some reason. I think it may be a bug in Game Creator 2. Scene index you could probably use, and you would use the build profile index of 0 right there. So we can try that as well and see if that works. And see if that's going to work. Yes, it does. So, yeah. So to fix that, so we want to say scene index or scene name and specify the name. The index is probably better because it's less prone to less prone to typing errors. So, but scene asset doesn't seem to work properly. So stick to one of those two. So that's it. And next we will be doing the bonus. We'll be doing the challenge 2 play fetch next. So stay tuned for that. And we'll see you in the next one.